The Fool's Journey is an exercise that was given to me many years ago, when I was sort of just beginning, but I wanted to know more about the major trumps. And instead of taking each one in isolation and trying to figure it out, my teacher said to me, okay, here's the story. The fool is walking along a road, and the first person he meets is the magician. What happens? And that was all I was told. So what I did was, and what I'm suggesting you do, is take the fool, there's the fool, and figure out something about the fool, and then put the fool beside, if I can get this one, there's the magician. And put these two together and look at them and figure out, what does the magician say to the fool? What does the fool say to the magician? Does the fool have questions? Does the magician have answers? Or does the magician have questions? And so you look at these two cards together. Maybe you figure out what they have in common, what's different, what's going on with them. And the thing is, I did this years ago, and I've done this kind of exercise a few times since then. And I think it's interesting because you see more each time, and you understand more, or maybe it's more accurate to say you understand differently each time that you look at it. You spot things. And so it's sort of generally improving your understanding of a card. It's not that you're going to notice something and the next time this card comes up in a reading you're going to say what you noticed this last time. It's more like you have a sort of a more complete understanding of what the magician represents, period. What it represents under any condition, or what it represents no matter what the question is and no matter what the other cards are around it. And so it's like, if you think of somebody you know, that somebody you've known since childhood, a best friend, let's say, and so think about somebody that you've only just met. So there's you, your best friend, and a new friend sitting in a restaurant somewhere, and the waiter comes by and says something annoying. You know how your best friend is going to react because you've had experience with that person over the years, but you don't know how the new friend is going to react because you haven't seen him or her in that kind of situation before. And it's the same way with this Fool's Journey spread, or Fool's Journey exercise, because you come up with and you begin to understand the magician in different circumstances. So you end up that you know the card better. And because you're not better, you're going to be able to know in advance how it's going to act or react depending on the question or depending on the circumstances. So let me put that there for the moment. And we've got here the Fool. So when I first began this, I'm looking at the Fool, and somehow you start here, and the Fool's going in this direction, and that may or may not have a meaning. So we've got the Fool walking down the mountainside. He's not looking where he's going. So this can be an accident waiting to happen. Okay, and so maybe he's being distracted by the dog, or he's being encouraged by the dog. And so at a certain point, somehow the Fool gets off the mountain. And I don't really want to say too much about the Fool at the moment. And he's walking along a road, and the first person he meets is the magician. But why are we going from right to left? And I want to tell you one little bit of astrology. And I want to emphasize, I don't think we should be mixing astrology and the tarot. And I know everybody does it, and some people following the Golden Dawn system will have this particular card is, I don't know what it is, but a minor trump could be Venus and Virgo, for instance. And that's all very well if you know what Venus and Virgo means, but understanding Venus and Virgo is a whole other lifetime study. And I think it's asking too much. And it's asking for trouble if you, 6 months after looking at the tarot, you begin to incorporate key words or key phrases for Venus and Virgo, let's say. And I think it's like 6 months is not enough time to understand fully what Venus and Virgo is. And so by introducing it into a reading, or introducing it to the tarot, I think it's too much too soon. If you're on YouTube and you go to search and do John Ballantyne 004, you'll find a few astrological videos that I put there, and there's a website, and you might find interesting things there. But the thing I want to tell you now is this. Okay, this is a horoscope. I'll hold it up to the camera a bit. This actually is Mozart. Okay, so what one of the things about a birth chart is you draw a line down here. Okay, and so this is the left-hand side of the chart, and that's the right. The left-hand side of the chart is the free will side, and so planets here, you have control over them. Whereas planets on the right-hand side of the chart, which is the fated side, circumstances control you. Here, you control circumstances. And so if we look at the full, that's the only reason I wanted to mention that. Look at the full. He's going from right to left. He's moving into the free will side of the chart. And so the full can make mistakes. He is in some way trying to, or learning how to, control circumstances, because it's the free will side of the chart. And that's something to remember, because maybe it means if the fool's upside down, he's going this way, which means that he's under the control of circumstances. So with the fool upright, you make decisions, you make choices. With the fool upside down, you can't make choices, or your choices are limited. Okay, so let's say we have the fool, and let's say he made it safely down from the mountain. On a mountain, he's isolated. There aren't too many people up here. So in a sense, he's coming back into the world and leaving isolation behind and beginning to deal with and relate to other people. And maybe this is what the magician is going to tell him about. And so if I can just get this card. Okay, so we put them side by side, and you figure out what's going on. So what does the magician say? What happens? How does the conversation begin? Is the fool walking along and comes across this person standing by the side of the road? And maybe the fool asks him, okay, I'm just about to go back into the world. Tell me what I need to know. So maybe the magician says, we've got these 4 suits on the table. Maybe the magician is going to tell him, you need to learn to feel and be empathetic with people from cups. You need to understand what you value from the coins. You need to understand when to take action because of the sword. Sometimes you have to attack, sometimes you need to defend. And sometimes you need to just put your energy into projects on the baton. And he's got the snake biting its tail around his waist. And the snake is in a sense, it's a kind of regeneration, because the snake will shed its skin. So maybe the magician says there will be times when you have to let go, when you have to remove or get away from what you already know and move into new circumstances, new conditions, and not just stay with what you know. Because if you shed your skin, there's growth. And maybe the way he's standing, the infinity and the baton and what this can be telling the fool, you also need a certain philosophy to understand maybe there's a spiritual path in life that we ought not to forget, or we ought to remember that there are causes and there are outcomes. And rather than focus on the outcome, you're better to relate to and try to understand the cause, which brings about the effect. So let's see let's see the fool says thank you very much and moves on. The next person he meets is the high priestess. So here we're outside with flowers around. Now we've gone inside some kind of building. And what's going to happen now? The atmosphere is different. Sunshine, darkness. And I'm looking at a clock, and I think I have to stop now because I don't want to go over the 10 minutes. So more in part 2.